Memphis track boy. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing.
Here with Will Burnett, who has been doing our Buffs in the NFL feature weekly. And Will, before we hit record here, we thought this feature was going to involve a little bit more intrigue. Finally, we do have some intrigue, though, with Shedeur Sanders set to make his first start. I first want to go back. Let's get the negative out of the way. How Cleveland has handled this situation, how he had not had any first team reps until he gets thrust into action last week. What were your overall takeaways about just how they've handled this situation, what you saw out of Shedeur last Sunday?
Well, if you go by just his raw stat line, the casual fan is going to say he had an awful debut, 4 for 16, 47 yards. He had an interception, a couple sacks. I would like to kind of zoom out and get a different perspective and use a different metric. You got to keep in mind when you talk about how the Browns organization has handled this, a ton of questions about whether the Browns even wanted Shedeur or not was on the table earlier on in the year. This is a guy who fell in the draft, who has been labeled as a distraction by some of the media members. And then on top of that, as you mentioned, he hasn't taken one first team snap since he was drafted, which is pretty insane considering he's one play a game from getting the keys to a franchise. So if you take all that into account, it's actually quite impressive that he was able to make some of the throws he made and some of the plays he made, and was really one batted down pass away from potentially tying or winning that ball game. So I would say expect improvement moving forward, but he's got an uphill battle with the organization that he's in with Cleveland.
A little buff on buff crime there. We're going to get into some of the other guys that are forever buffs in the NFL. But sticking with Shedeur, now getting these practice reps, how much can that change expectations with just 1 week? It's not like the Cleveland Browns are overnight going to be this great football team.
Well, exactly. And keep in mind, I heard a very interesting stat the other day. This is the 42nd quarterback that the Browns have had since the team moved back to Cleveland in 1999 from Baltimore. So this is a franchise who is no stranger to moving pieces, especially at the quarterback position. The good news is he's going to be facing a team who's also 2-8 in the Raiders. I call it the battle for who has the most dysfunctional organization. Obviously kidding a little bit with that, but I'm looking for Shedeur to try and limit negative plays. I think that getting these first team reps are going to help immensely because, as everybody knows, as a quarterback, timing and route running with your receivers, cadences with your offensive line is of the utmost importance. And he, as well as other players, said that they hadn't really heard a cadence from him, or he hadn't even really thrown a lot of passes to these guys. Getting these week 1 reps are going to help him, I think, immensely. Look at him to try to take unnecessary sacks, no chunk yard losses or chunk yardage losses, and get rid of the ball. If he's able to do that, I think that he'll be actually pretty successful this Sunday, and he'll keep growing week by week.
Dillon Gabriel is in concussion protocol. That is why Shedeur is getting the start. We'd be guessing because clearly Cleveland has not been setting Shedeur up for success there. But what do you think he could do on Sunday to potentially start after that, even when Dillon Gabriel gets healthy? Or is that they're just not going to do that based on what we've seen from Cleveland?
It's up in the air, and the head coach Kevin Stefanski is not giving the media a lot. They've been asking him all year kind of what the plan is moving forward. It would appear from the outside that he might not really have one. I know that he was big on Dillon Gabriel moving forward. That's not really working out, or hasn't been working out, I think, to the degree that they want. I think where Shedeur's advantage is going to lie is if you watch Sunday's game, he did look a little erratic and overwhelmed in those first few possessions. But what I looked at was that last 2-minute drive that he had. They were down against a divisional opponent, and Colorado fans remember this Shedeur very well, the composed Shedeur, who would kind of strap the cape on with those 2 minutes, lead the team down the field and be able to make plays and ultimately win a lot of ball games doing that. These practices, getting number 1 reps, he'll learn the proper checkdowns. He'll get on the right timing with his receivers and his line and everything like that. One thing that you cannot teach is that clutch gene that we know Shedeur has in spades, as we saw it at Colorado. So I believe if he shows steps moving forward to progress, I think he'll remain the starter because of that ability.
Fingers crossed. There's going to be a lot of people tuning in, and
Yeah.
maybe a good situation for your first start. Cleveland's 2-8, but they go travel out to Las Vegas, and the Raiders are 2-8 as well. So
Yeah.
this is a football game that not a lot of people probably would have been tuning into before, but now with Shedeur set to make his first start, the ratings are going to be pretty good for that one. Well, let's talk about the other buffs in the NFL in another video later this week.
Sounds good.